What's good, y'all, and welcome to this vid. So we already earlier today talked about Nerissa. Now the big question is she good enough for you to skip Ferssi if you don't have him, or even obviously worth skipping Ferssi's Awakenings for? Because the main part about Ferssi and this banner specifically is it's a 2 times by 20 times. It's been ages since we had our last 2 times by 15x, and overall you're getting 2 times the legend rate and then also the rate up, which is the reason why this even stands to debate. And also Narissa might arrive within like 2 to 3 weeks and Ferssi is here right now. So let's whip out the calculator real quick to give you an idea of the odds. So the hero pool is 65, we have 3 rate ups, which means these 3 rate ups get boosted to 20 value each, meaning a value of 60, and then we divide it by 65, which is the whole amount of heroes, plus the additional heroes we've added with the value, which is 57. So 65 plus 57, meaning 122. So we're going to be dividing by 122. Giving us overall a 49.1% chance of pulling a rate up hero. Now the big issue here for some of you might be the fact that even though the rate up is up, so there's a 50% chance for you to walk away with the rated up hero, 2 of the 3 could arguably be called duds, disappointments, however you want to flip it, and that is overall you only have a 16.3% chance of getting a Ferssi, which translates to a roughly 1 in 6 chance. So you would have to go to 6 legendaries to have a more realistic shot of getting a Ferssi. So yes, double legendaries, but also triple rate up. So this is kind of what speaks for it, speaks against it. Alright, so now that you know the math and the like, who's Nerissa? How is she versus Ferssi? Let's have a look. So these heroes are both without gear and only in a plus 25 golden scarab, and you can see that Ferssi actually has 151 BP more, and that is because their stats are identical, besides Ferssi having 150 attack exactly more. If we check the full stats right here on the attributes, you see it goes 11, 2, 4, 7, 8, 35, 2, 2, 8, 18, 1, 63, 15, 9, 6. You can pause if you want, but here it also goes 11, 2, 4, 6, 4, 9, 8, 3, 5, 2, 2, 8, 18, 1, 63, 15, 9, and 6. So it is a carbon copy of base stats. Both are healers, both are single faction, Ferssi being infernal, Nerissa being esotericist. So let's just go side by side, the comparison between the two to give you an idea of who's stronger. So let's start with the talent. Ferssi's talent is a simple after 5 seconds without performing any healing, the hero's healing multiplier for the next hero will be increased by 100%. So this only really comes into play when there is downtime between Ferssi having to heal. On the other hand, here you have the Abyssal Favor, which means she's going to give a permanent 20% inspiration to a single unit. That unit is also going to be recovering 5% HP and grants Nerissa a point of Black Pearls, which is a mechanic which we'll get later to. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time within 2 seconds. Each trigger increases Abyssal Favor's HP region effect by 10%. So overall, it probably goes from 5 to 5.5 to 5 to 6 to 6.5 up to a 10% HP increase. So that's what she does, and then each single target here grants a point of Black Pearls. Every 4 points of Black Pearls she gains a point of atrophy. Atrophy is going to be very important for her, which you'll see in just a second. Now between the other two you then also have this additionally heals 1 allied unit in range, which means she heals 2 units with her basic attack rather than just 1. Range wise, you have the typical Ferssi range at 100% attack based healing to 1 ally in range, with Ferssi also having the same range, giving you 100%, it just doesn't state the multiplier. So just from the raw basic attack they're the same. Ferssi's talent comes into play less, And here we have the permanent inspiration plus some extra heal, as well as a way to gain her own stacks. Now for the A2, Ferssi has Sans Bestowal. When an ally in range receives AoE damage, they gain increased healing received. This effect can only be triggered one time every 35 seconds, so they gain 20% more healing received. And then he also has Sand Aegis, which gives a 25% AoE damage reduction to all allies in range. On the other hand, you have Siren's Song. Siren's Song reduces AoE damage taken by 20% for all allies in the hero's basic attack range, so 5% less than Ferssi, and also within a tile of the Abyssal Favor, which is the buff given to the highest attack unit. Let me actually make myself a bit smaller. So, next up, then when HP drops below 100%, they immediately receive healing equal to 50% multiplier. Each target can trigger this effect up to one time every 5 seconds. So similar to Ferssi in them gaining the increased healing and then him having kind of like this AoE wave-ish right here. And then lastly you have Dark Onslaught, where every 4 points of atrophy, which is every 16 black pearls. So there are 16 black pearls that form 4 points of atrophy. Every 4 points of atrophy, the hero's attack increases by 10% and reduces all damage taken by 8% when atrophy reaches 4 points. So, or more, allies within the hero's basic attack range and one tile of Abyssal Favor gain the increased healing received. So instead of it being like Ferssi with the healing received, where it's upon them taking AoE damage, they gain it for 15 seconds with 20 seconds downtime. For her, it's something that has to wind up and then is active at 100% uptime. All effects reset when the ultimate ends, which is quite important. So now Ultimate of Ferssi. Ultimate of Ferssi is heals all allies in range one time with a 140% healing multiplier and applies 20% inspiration to 3 allied units with the highest attack for 10 seconds. So the 20% inspiration that Nerissa has on her Abyssal Favor, Ferssi has in his ultimate. He gives it to 3, she only gives it to 1 hero, she gives it permanent, he gives it only during ultimate for the for 10 seconds every time he ults. So now Nerissa's ultimate, when casting the ultimate, consumes all atrophy and dispels debuffs from allies in the hero's basic attack range. And within one tile around Abyssal Favor, which is the unit with the highest attack, when the ultimate is activated, each basic attack now deals 15% magic damage 30 times to the enemy with the lowest HP in range. So overall you're dealing 450% magic damage to the enemy with the lowest HP in range, which for example for Abyss would only be 1 enemy. Furthermore, you increase your own damage against shields by 60% to these enemies with shields, and the ultimate lasts for 12 seconds, cannot gain black pearls during the ultimate. Important here, which you'll see in a second, is Nerissa cannot freely ult, so you can't spam this ult, do full damage. She first has to build up 4 stacks of atrophy before she can use her ult, so it's not something you can permanently spam, which means it's at minimum going to be taking 16 stacks of black pearls if I looked at her, or if her kit worked correctly. Now we have Ferssi's Awakenings with the A1. When Sans Bestowal is triggered, so this right here, when an ally receives damage, restores HP equal to 40% of Ferssi attack for the target, which is kind of this AoE heal that happens once they get hit, which is similar to what Narissa does with her doing the 50% multiplier once they get hit, but this can trigger up to 1 time every 5 seconds, and Ferssi's triggers when Sans Bestowal triggers, which can only be triggered once every 35 seconds. The A2 is the same, and then you have the trigger interval of Sans Bestowal reduces by 5 seconds, so it can trigger every 30 seconds. And then the A5 increases healing multiplier by 20% for 10 seconds after receiving AoE damage. Now on the other hand, her awakenings are definitely more powerful, and that is because the A1 already increases the AoE damage reduction from 20 to 30%, so from 5% lower to 5% higher than Ferssi, and you also expand the Abyssal Favor range to the adjacent 2 tiles, which should mean that the damage reduction is now applying to here within 1 tile, the blah blah blah, blah blah blah. So the AoE damage reduction is now within the 2 adjacent tiles of the highest attack unit. It's a bit hard to say how important the last part is, but already the 10% damage increase or damage reduction is quite good. Though I am of the opinion that her A1 isn't 100% necessary. Yes, it makes her better than Ferssi, but I think she can already compete even without the A1. Then A2, we talked about it, is the same. And then when allies are healed by Siren Song, they gain a shield equal to 40% of their max HP for 5 seconds. So another source of survival, which might even open up getting rid of, for example, Aelin, which is kind of intricately linked with Ferssi. You kind of only ever bring Ferssi and Aelin to Abyss. You cannot really change away from that. And then with the A5, every 4 points of atrophy increases the hero's healing multiplier by 5%. This effect lasts until the ultimate ends. Additionally, Siren Song now applies Abyssal Favor to 1 additional allied unit. So what I was talking about and what I want to show you right here, I guess we can kind of take a look at it together, is let's just give us some gear. Doesn't have to be anything game breaking. Yeah, let's just sort by BP. Let's just give her this. Is not quite important what it is. The important part is how this whole atrophy shenanigan works, and that is we go into the fight. We're obviously not going to place anyone else. We're just going to place her. I mean, I guess we have to play someone, otherwise she doesn't have anybody to heal. So yeah, we place her down. We place our Elowen in, place our Diao in, and then I guess we place the rest of the people. Let's see if they can keep them alive. The important part here is you see above her these kind of like 4 eyes. The way I see this, those should be atrophy stacks. So you can see one of these eyes lights up, but we can still not trigger the ultimate. I am clicking it, it does not trigger. So you have to wait until these 4 eyes do fill up. So now we got 3, now we got 4. It might also be that this whole thing, yeah, this should be the black pearls that then turn into atrophy. So you need at minimum 1 atrophy, so 4 stacks of black pearl, which isn't as bad as it seems in the beginning, but at least you're not going to be able to spam it. And as you can see, during the ultimate duration, she does not gain any more black pearls. So what we're now going to do is obviously take her into Abyss and see how much damage she actually truly does to a shield, to give you an idea of how important it actually is that she does damage, and if it might just not be more than just a gimmick. Alright, a little bit of a heads up. I played around with it already. We're going to go into an Abyss 1 run. But overall, don't expect Nerissa to completely annihilate the shield by herself. You can expect around 2.8 to maybe 4 million damage from her to the shield in A0 with reasonable gear. Yes, for this, she did around 3 million damage to the shield, and I had a 1 piece of crit damage, so this might change, but overall don't expect any huge damage explosions, though these couple millions might be exactly what you're missing to just make it through the magic shield. Overall, this is the team we're going with, and what you're going to notice is we have a grand total of 6 ground units, because I am somewhat confident in making this whole shenanigan work together. So yeah, let's give it a look and see how it goes. So overall, we're going to be starting it off with Kigiri, then bringing in Constance Wukong, Aelin, Numera, Volker, Torodor all the way out there, so he's only on Kigiri. And then with the help of, I mean, I guess we don't even need it. I guess like this is fine too. But yeah, like this, we should be in the clear. We have everybody covered. We even have the Abyssal Favor on Kigiri, which means that one also reaches over to Torodor. Because I'm quite sure I'm pretty sure I made sure. Bit long-winded, but yeah, you can see the, I mean, I guess you can't see it, but here's the inspiration increase. And that is from the Abyssal Favor. If we go to other units, you see Wukong, he has the shield break and the damage reduction, but he does not have the invigoration. So the invigoration or inspiration from Nerissa only goes to Kigiri. All right, so let's see if we can make this run work. I think it's a decently interesting strat. I wonder how far we can get, and also I wonder how much damage Nerissa is going to be able to do. Overall, I obviously hope we survive this whole shenanigan right here, and at least with A0 Nerissa, I don't believe there's a way to make Eluin last throughout the whole fight, which would be kind of against the whole point if that doesn't end up coming to pass. So yeah, we have Vaughn, who gives the shield damage increase to our fighters, Vaughn obviously being A0. So Wukong and Kigiri are going to be able to do more shield damage. We also have the vulnerability from Volker, and hopefully this is enough to break the 60 million shield. No guarantees. And then, yeah, let's just see how it goes. Kigiri might have been a bit late. Nope, he was just on time. I just forgot to trigger our inspo unit, which is a bit unfortunate. Tiny bit. Alright, here we can fast forward. Just gonna wait for the phase change. If you do manage to make an Eluin stay alive, you're just getting like one more Kigiri, one more Wukong ultimate into that window right here. So something I explained before in like a take that I didn't end up keeping in is the fact that you're kind of running into a problem. You can swap out a Ferssi for a Nerissa or a Nerissa for a Ferssi, but you cannot really as easily swap in a Eluin for Aelin, because Aelin's healing, especially through like the hard-hitting phases, is just kind of too powerful. It might be possible with this formation. Doubtful. Maybe once you get that A1 for the 10% less damage taken, or maybe once you get that A3 for the 50% shield, it might be possible, but at least at A0 I don't see it as anything too realistic. So yeah, let's just use our Numera ults right here, and then you're briefly gonna see we have Drake's Bellow, we have Kigiri, Wukong, Numera, Nastia, Vaughn, Volker, and you can see there's no Nerissa because she does only attack in ultimate. So now we have the Meteoric Deluge, we use Kigiri to block, wait for this whole thing to come in, then get our vulnerabilities up, get the rest of our ultimates up, and then we have the 10 million shield. I mean, I guess you cannot underestimate 2.8 million, because at the end of the day, it is still a fourth of the shield. And Nerissa, you can see her damage kind of rising to like 4 million, 4.5, 4.7, 4.95. Keep in mind, most of that was actually on the vulnerable phase of the boss, and we do also have a Nastia here. So we have the extra damage increase from the amount of debuffs, we have the magic res reduction, and the 2.8 million came from us using the Epic Lord instead. Yeah. Alright, so here we're just waiting for the transformation. I guess we can use Numera just for fun. and then here it's time forward. So what you really want to do, or what you, I guess, kind of also have to get a bit used to, is not using Narissa's ultimate the same way you would use a Ferssi ultimate. You're kind of using like Ferssi's ultimate to get you out of like a tight situation, but this one really does not give you like any extra healing or whatever. So there's no like get out of jail free card Ferssi ultimate. It's all just saving it for the magic shield pretty much. So you also have like the most amount of stacks and all that stuff. So yeah, let's see how we do in the end. We got Worm's Wrath once more. So this is the second shield, which means Wukong can go early, but Kigiri we want to wait for like, I call it 80%, just so we can get another of those beautiful ember cuts. You know what I mean. We shouldn't have used Numera here. That was kind of a waste, and I'm sorry for that. We should not have used Numera at this point. Well, that was a mistake. We could have used it on the phase transition for some extra easy damage. Didn't do so. My bad. I guess we're using it here early. We're gonna play it risky. See if we can still down the shield. I mean, Numera, she's getting her ultimate reasonably fast. Here we go with the Aelin ultimate. I'm not quite sure how tanky I build everybody. I'm kind of expecting us to survive this. Someone might just die, like Numera. Apparently Numera either didn't apply the damage down, same with Volker, or somehow we didn't build her properly tanky. So if we still break the shield, that would be very surprising. But I'm kind of still looking forward to it, to see us try. So, here we go. We activate her ultimate, because her ultimate does take quite a while. And then we obviously get the inspo ready. Should have been a bit earlier. We lost Wukong for whatever reason. Let's see. Nerissa 8 million. 8.6, 9.4, yeah. You can see it's around, she gets out around 4.5 million damage, which is really good. It's a fifth of the shield, and Ferssi does 0 damage, right? If we had a Numera on the field, we would be breaking that shield, no doubt. Numera did die, unfortunately. Yeah, should have done the gearing better. But overall, she does what it says on the box. She doesn't completely annihilate by itself, but she is going to give you that extra couple million that you might need to even get away with one less esotericist unit. Maybe you can even make it through with just 2. So for example, also keep in mind, this isn't linked to esotericist. You could also be running her instead of a Ferssi naturally. So something like a Hex, Soul Cadence plus, like a high enough Soul Cadence, a high enough Hex plus Narissa might be able to do the shield by themselves, which would be quite helpful, because you could then just bunch the rest into physical. So I hope I was able to at least kind of show you the gearing plan thing. I mean, it's still a couple of things we have to discuss, have to figure out on how and what her awakenings make possible, but this should give you a good idea of how she's like bringing a bit more freedom to this, how she just perfectly obviously fits into this esotericist comp. And overall, I'm a great fan of this permanent 20% inspiration. So this permanent 20% inspiration is kind of like as if you had a Diao, but just for one specific unit. So you see Diao gives obviously the 25% inspiration and the penetration, but then again, she does have more base stats than a Diao does. So specifically for just Kigiri, your Kigiri should be performing even better under a Nerissa plus Constance, because Constance obviously being the only ground DPS kind of makes it easier to deal with the platforms. But also Constance has by far a higher burst window of inspiration, allowing you to do even more shield damage. It just depends on how much damage comes from before the shields, how much damage comes from after the shields. But the fact that we made it to 31,000 blood without breaking the magic shield, and I think we stood a good chance at breaking the physical shield, it should say a lot. So overall, at the end of the day, how do you even get Nerissa? We don't know, right? If I had to make a guess, I would say she's going to be a normal summon. She's going to be a normal summon arriving in like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4. She does not scream limited. If anything might scream limited, it could be the new class, right? One of those might just be a limited hero, who knows, to like allow all people to just get them early. I mean, we can scroll for a bit, we can see if we can find them. But yeah, you've probably seen the video before. There we go, right? So it just might be one of these tactical mastery units, because now we also have this gear on the test server, not that we can do anything with it at the moment. So I don't know, I'm a huge fan of her kit. I like her design, and she is stronger than Ferssi, but at the end of the day, it's a debate of, is she going to be on a banner by herself? Is she going to be on a banner with someone else? Because if she's with someone else, she's going to only have like a 20% drop chance. Can that whole thing compete against the 2x by 20x, which is by far the strongest banner in the game? It is honestly hard to say. You kind of have to make that judgment for yourself. If you can afford to wait, if you don't really benefit from getting a Ferssi right here, right now, for like the next 2 to 3 weeks to like get a massive return, then stay away from Ferssi, wait for her. And if not, then obviously there's still no harm in going for Ferssi. Ferssi is still good enough. She is good, but she at least doesn't completely invalidate him, specifically and especially if you only have her once, because you kind of need that A1 if you want more AoE damage reduction to like truly put Ferssi in the shadow. And I guess if you really want to crank it out, then this every 15 seconds 40% max HP shield is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, as always, we see each other in the next one. Peace!